Okay, so let's get started. First of all, please, when you hand in the work, some of you are doing it directly in the drive, right? I think, is that how you did it?
Yeah, I did it separately on a different one, and then I couldn't figure out how to put my file into the drive.
Okay. Yeah, it's better than nothing, right? So in general, those of you who are doing it directly in the drive, it's making it hard for me to grade. So if it's better for me if you save it on your desktop and then move it into like, I don't know how you say that. How you say that?
Like drag it?
Drag it, yes. Drag it. No, it's okay. Next time.
Do you have a preference for the file type, or just as long as it's in the drive?
What?
Do you have a preference on the file type? Is that why you're
No. Yes, because if it's dragged in, I can just click next. Whereas each time I have to go and open a new file, it takes me double time to grade than if it's already. It's just like that. Yeah.
Sorry. I don't know how many people have it for, but at least for Isaiah and I, when we submitted it through the file, it would disappear. So I submitted it, I think, yesterday or 2 days ago. It disappeared, and I resubmitted this morning. So I don't know if there's like an issue
when
on
you
my side.
drag it does
No,
that?
I just like uploaded the file inside the folder.
Oh yeah, so drag it.
Just drag.
Yeah, drag.
Okay.
Save everything because these things do disappear. So save everything and then just drag it into the folder. If you can't, like you, then just whatever, right? It's not a big deal, but it's better for me to grade. What's your last name? Peck. Yes, gotcha. Okay, let's get started. So the Book of Ecclesiastes is, like I mentioned in the introduction, is one of the most, in my view, misunderstood books of the Hebrew Bible for the reasons that I mentioned, right? People read it with a religious perspective. And so they become uncomfortable with kind of the freedom, right, that the text is, some of the things the author is saying, some of the things the author experienced, right? This is not the average, good Jew or good Christian, right? This is somebody who lived life, right, to the fullest, tried everything. This is the equivalent of today somebody who was a drug dealer, at the same time he was a pimp, and then he was very wealthy, he was very poor, he did this, he sinned all these sins, and then he did all these great things. And this is somebody who lived life to the fullest, right? In fact, this is interesting because there is a deep connection between this character from the Book of Ecclesiastes, which we traditionally believe is King Solomon, and Nietzsche's philosophy. So when we get to Nietzsche, you're going to see some parallels, right? They both have a very similar mindset of living life to the fullest, right? Not being afraid to enter life and to transgress and to fall and to rise up and so forth. This is not the average Orthodox teaching you will get in a church or a synagogue, right? Where you're told, be careful, don't do this, don't go there, walk the line, don't transgress, don't sin, God forbid you should sin, never sin, right? And so you end up, kind of like these people walking like this through life, right? So this is a very different approach. It's very shocking. So many of the religious commentators have said, this is just, you read this to know whatever he's saying, you should think the opposite, because he's writing this text in a state of sinfulness, right? So I have heard actually people say everything he's saying should not be received because he's not in the right state of mind, right? So we know already that the wisdom books are a whole different family, right? And so this is why we know that this text, in all of its splendor and all of its transgression, is actually to be taken and received with its integrity, right? Integrality. Every word, there is something for us, right? This is, remember, the gospel of the lost sheep, or the Bible of the lost sheep. I'll be right with you, right? You have two kinds of people, right? You have the believers who walk the line, which is actually, if you want good advice, take that path, right? This is the path of simplicity, the path of wisdom. You will not waste time. You will be happy sooner. But then there are some of us, they can't take this path. They have to go and zigzag, right? They have to transgress and try this and try that. And so there is a Bible for these people too, and this is the Bible we're doing right now, the Book of Ecclesiastes. Yes, Bedel, you had a question. Okay. No questions. You in the back, last name. Can someone tell me what she said? With an I? Nasiri? Okay, Nasiri. Welcome, Nasiri. Okay, very good. Okay, so we are ready now, right? We know this is the Bible of the transgressors, and we know that as transgressors, there is something we can receive there. This is also a path to God, right? This is also a path to happiness, to spiritual depth. There's not just this path. This path also works, right? Okay, so let's go in the text. I'm going to just read a few. I was going to focus on chapter 2, but I'm going to read a few passages from chapter 1 so you get into the atmosphere, right? So turn with me to page 345. This is the beginning. Hopefully you have your book. Where are your books? I need to. Yours is coming. I'm going to ask everybody. Where's your book? It's coming. And you? Yes, good. Bedel, you're something else, other planet. Okay. I forgot your name. Azera, your book?
I have it on.
Online? Okay. Nasiri, your book? What? Coming. Okay. And
I have it online.
online. Okay, very good. All right, so turn with me. 345. Again, right, you have to have the right edition of the book to be able to follow in this class, right? Whatever, if you're getting it on your own, get the right one. Okay, the words of Kohelet. Kohelet is a Hebrew word which simply means Kohelet from the word kahal, which means gathering. So Kohelet is the gatherer, right? Let me write this down on the board. Hopefully people on the Zoom can see it. Kahal means gathering of people gathering together. So Kohelet from the word kahal can mean, right, the gatherer, the one who assembles. This is someone who draws people to himself, right? Another type of Christ, you can say. There are many connections, by the way, for those of you who are Christian, between the teachings of Ecclesiastes and the gospel of Jesus. Right? This is the same mindset. I mean, I could go hours about that, right? About how this is subversive and the teachings of Jesus are subversive in a very similar way, right? But we won't deal with that too much. Maybe when we do Gospel of John. The words of Kohelet, son of David, king in Jerusalem. This is King Solomon, the one I mentioned. Now, he begins. We're going to do some Hebrew. Merest breath, said Kohelet, nearest breath, all is mere breath. Now, this is an excellent translation. In most Bibles, you have meaningless, right? Everything is meaningless. This is how they translate the Hebrew word. But breath is the accurate translation. I will write the Hebrew because I will use it later when I'm talking to you. Hebrew word is hevel. Okay, hevel. Now, memorize this word, right? Because I'm going to use it. Now, and it translates rightfully breath. Okay, hevel. If you just hear the word hevel, you already have ha. You feel the breath coming through your lungs as you're speaking the word hevel, right? In the Hebrew, hevel, havlim, hakol, hevel, you can hear the ha, the assonance, right? Okay. Now, yes.
Are you available tomorrow between 11:15 and 11:30?
Yes.
Okay, so I gave my supervisor your phone number.
11:15, I
It's
come here?
11:30, yeah, tomorrow.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, but I gave her your number anyway.
Okay, awesome. So I'll be at your office 11:15.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye. Okay, where was I? Okay, now, before we go any further, I'm going to tell you a story about Hevel so you can really situate. If you understand the story, you will understand the whole perspective of the Book of Ecclesiastes, and you'll understand what we're going to talk about today. Anybody know, for the biblicists among you, where this word is found, the earliest moment where this word pops up in the Hebrew Bible? Hevel. Anybody know? Yes, Bedel.
Genesis.
Yes, where?
Adam's breath.
Which one?
God's breath into Adam.
God what?
God's breath into Adam.
No, that's a different word, but good try. Is ruach, right? So this is different. It's a hevel. Ruach is a more spiritual, powerful breath. It connects to maybe the Christian concept of Holy Spirit. That's ruach. Hevel is just your breath, right? Now, but it's in Genesis. You're right. Early, it's somebody's name. I'll help you out. Somebody's name. Hevel. It's close to a name. In the English, it sounds a little different, but it's two brothers. I'm zooming in.
Abel.
Yes, Abel. The word that we translate Abel in the Hebrew, Hevel. So this is also the name, right, for the person of Abel. In the Hebrew, they don't call him Abel, they call him Hevel. So now if we understand this person, we will understand the whole book. So I'm going to tell you this story to begin our journey into Ecclesiastes so you have already the right frame of mind. So, What is the story of Cain and Abel? Anybody remember? Who knows the story? Put your hand up. Okay, Dib, Abedel, that's it? Okay, I will tell it to you. Two brothers, very early in the history of mankind. The sons of Adam and Eve, the sons of the first couple. Two brothers, Cain and, so in the Hebrew, Cain and Hebel, right? And it translates Cain, right, in English, and Abel. Yes?
She said, meet him by the dome.
By the dome, okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Then he go inside the wait, but he'll be not by the office, by the
Dome.
dome.
I'll be there. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right.
Okay. All right. Two brothers, Cain, Hebel. Repeat after me. Cain, Hebel. Okay, you need to get this Hebrew in your minds, right? Now, this is the first. So it's interesting because each name has it's connected to a verb in the Hebrew. Cain is a noun or is a name built off of the verb kana. You'll see why I'm telling you all this because today we're going to see this. And Hebel, it means simply bread. Kana means in the Hebrew to acquire, to possess, to control, to conquer. Okay? Acquire, possess. Now in the story, Cain is a farmer, Abel is a herder. Okay? Abel has sheep, Cain has the land. Cain owns the land. Cain is agriculture, he possesses, he acquires, he controls, he masters the land. Can you see the personality? Wow, the man, right? Abel, Haven, he's a nomad, he has sheep, so he's wandering around on the land of Cain, right? It's not even his land, he's wandering around. He has almost no substance connected to Cain. Cain is really the one who owns everything, he's the one who's productive, he's the one who's building society. Abel is kind of the poet, he's kind of just floating, right? By the way, in this world, there are two kinds of people, Cains and Abels, right? You have the people who are productive, for whom wealth is important, success, economic prosperity, and then you have the poets or the mystics, and they're a little off, the artists, right? And we always look at them and we're like, what are you even here for, right? What did you do today? Paint? What you call that productive, right? So two kinds of people, right, that we see here already. Now, this is important because what in the story, right, there's Cain actually gets the brilliant idea to offer a sacrifice to God. Abel follows. He has no personality. He's just following, right? And then they make the sacrifice, and God strangely, and this is a whole other story, accepts the sacrifice of Abel, but not of Cain. And so Cain gets very jealous. He turns on his brother and he kills him so that he can be the only one to be important, right? That's the story. Abel pops up now in our text. So what we know already, and you will see, by the way, that Cain will pop up again too today. We're going to see that. So Abel, we see already, is something that leaves no trace, right? When you see the story of Cain and Abel, and you see Abel, he's somebody that had no substance. He had no imprint. He left no trace. He came and he went. That's the meaning of Abel, and that's how Ecclesiastes, Kohelet, is describing the human condition. We are all just passing through. We are not leaving a mark. We are pointless. There's no point because you just pass through like a little breath. No one notices you, right, when you're gone or even when you're around. Anything you're doing is pointless. That's the meaning of Abel. And that's what Ecclesiastes is grappling with. Okay? So, now that you have this background, let's get into chapter 2. Any questions so far from anybody, including the Zoom?
So Ecclesiastes is the first existential crisis.
Yes. Ecclesiastes, the wisdom books are the existentialist books of the Bible. Existentialism existed way before Heidegger, way before Nietzsche. You had them already in these texts, right? So yes, very good. Any other questions before we continue? Okay. Chapter 2. So King Solomon now, haunted by this Hebel, by the fact that there is really the sense that he doesn't matter, This is really what it is, Haven. It's the deep sense that nothing matters and that you don't matter, right? I think all of us at some point have felt like, I don't matter. Nothing matters. This is pointless, right? So he's haunted by this ghost of Abel, right? The ghost of Haven. And so as we, and this is, by the way, Heidegger says this, right? Also, if we want to get existential, Heidegger says we are haunted by the anguish of death, right? And this is what propels us into action. We are so afraid, deep down, he says, all of us have this anxiety that it's all going to end, right? That our life is escaping through our fingers, right? This is the anxiety Heidegger also describes in his book, right? Being and Time. So we all have the sense that our life is escaping through our fingers, right? And so how do we find a grip back into the world? And this is what chapter 2 he's trying to do. He's haunted by the fact that life is flowing through his fingers. He's sensing that everything is just escaping him. And he is now going to show 3 ways that human beings, or he's going to explore 3 ways that human beings have typically tried to escape the Haven, to escape the anguish, right? This is what Heidegger, he calls it anxiety, right? Right? This is a deep anxiety which is not connected to you have a test tomorrow or your girlfriend broke up with you, right? This is not this type of anxiety. It's a deep ontological anxiety that we all have, and we all trying to escape. 3 ways. Let me write down. Okay, and he's going to explore them, right? 1, 2, 3. By the way, Zoom people, you can't read what I write on the board, can you? Zoom people?
A little bit. It's kind of faint.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, first thing. First type of people who are trying to get their grasp back on reality, I would call them the hedonists. Then we have the sages, and then we have the... No, it's the people who work, hardworking. Is there another word I could use that's more poetic than just maybe the laborers? I'll just call it that. Okay. All of you in this class, you fall into one of these 3 categories. This is how you're trying to deal with the sense that the rug is being pulled from under you, with the sense that life is flowing through your fingers. Hedonists. Okay, we're going to die, so might as well enjoy every moment. Somebody like this Albert Camus, right? The class is about existentialism, supposedly. I'll throw in a few, right, occasionally. Albert Camus says, has written a lot about this, right? Life is meaningless, we're going to die. The only thing we can do is just take a breath, sit, and just be present. Embrace the beauty, embrace the pleasure, embrace each other, right? And this is all we can do. And in a way, when you sense you're going to die, you get a very powerful, I don't know if probably none of you had this experience, but from what I have heard, people who almost died and recovered, life is so vivid, right? Everything tastes amazing. Kind of like when you come out of your house after a year and a half of COVID, right? And for me, I used to hate people. And now I'm in the subway and I'm like, like I'm in a complete wonder and marvel, right? In front of all these people, because I haven't seen some people for so long, right? So it's the same. So the hedonists are saying basically, life is short. Let's really just get as much as we can from life. And usually these people are just running after, right? This is a passion, right? They are running after every possible activity, party, experience. They want to try everything, and they are passionate, and they want to rush through everything because the sense of death is so powerful, right? First path that Solomon took, right? Second path, the sages, right? These are the people who say, okay, there is no, life is transient, but if I attach myself to the absolute, maybe I can survive this chaos, right? So these are the sages, these are the philosophers, right? People, existentialists who belong to this category are Marcel, right? Jaspers. Any existentialist who's talking about being is trying to find a point of anchorage, right? So the sages, right? Life is transient, anything could happen, but I'm going to hang on to something absolute. I'm going to connect to being or to God or to mystery, right? And then I can relax in this life, I have an anchor. Yes, Bedel.
Still, it's like hedonism of the good.
How is it a hedonism? Oh, of the good, yes. It's still trying to grasp onto something. Do you notice? Yeah, this is the leitmotif. They're grasping, right?
Yeah.
Grasp the pleasure, grasp the anchor. But
Wisdom.
absolutely, you're right. It's the same movement. I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm going to come back to that. Same movement of, you're hyperventilating. You're like, I need to hold on to something because everything is flowing. So these are the sages. Then you have the laborers, the worker bees. Most of us are in that category, right? I'm going to try and achieve something. I'm going to get my degree. I'm going to get a high-paying job. I'm going to get a house. Then I'm going to get a wife or husband. Then I'm going to have kids. And then I'm going to have grandkids. And then I'm going to be settled here. Right? I'm going to have stability, financial stability. This is most people in Queens. So this is the laborers, right, who also are grasping for financial security, for success, for stability, right? These are, so again, and the people here, you have no philosophers in this category. Nothing comes to mind. Philosophers are usually spread out. This is the average people. Average people. Okay? So this is the journey that Solomon makes. Remember, Solomon is trying to be every human being. So he's going to try everything and move between different approaches to this sense of, so it's just, I have no grasp on this. So notice that all three, and Bedel mentioned this, right? It is an attitude of grasping onto something. You sense that life is escaping you, and so you rush to get either the most pleasurable experiences in one day, right? Or wisdom, being something absolute, or, of course, financial stability, success, and so forth, right? All the same attitude of, I need to figure this out and make it happen, right? So briefly, right, we can read in the text briefly how he makes this journey, how he meanders. So if you go to chapter 2, verse, I can't breathe. Chapter 2, verse 4, right? This is Solomon over here, laborer. Starts out, hard work, right? I'm reading, everybody there?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm reading, I made me great works. I built myself houses. I planted vineyards. I made gardens. I made pools. Male slaves, slave girls, turning the page, herds of cattle, treasures, gold, women. This is a mixture, right? I made myself financially secure. I made myself powerful. Now, this way that life is escaping, I feel it less because I feel, at least I am in the illusion that I am secure. He continues, verse 12. Now he's turning to wisdom, right? The sages. I turn to wisdom. Actually, he does everything. Revelry, folly, right? He's going back and forth. Hedonists, sages, right? I turn to see, etc. And then you see that he goes with work. Again, verse 18. So he's trying everything, and I hated, verse 18, all the things I got from my toil, etc. Right? And then he concludes, verse 19, this too is haven. In the end, he realizes, none of this works. I remain, I still sense this thing that I'm just going to dissolve one day, that everything will be for nothing. See, he is inhabited by nothingness, right? And we are all inhabited by nothingness, but most of us are jumping into one of these to avoid thinking about it, right? So this is where we are, right? This is, but now we will see that the text is going to take a strange turn. And I don't know if you noticed, but it's very interesting what happens here in verse 24. So go there. So he has just said, right? All of this, if I pass out, it's because I don't have enough oxygen behind my mask. I'm feeling a little lightheaded. So he has just gone through all of this. He has just said this, Hevel endures, right? There's still Hevel. I'm still, right, verse 21. And then all of a sudden at verse 24, can anyone tell me what is happening and how he is switching? I'm going to take a breath. And Zoom, you can also participate. Yes?
His perspective changes where he wants to enjoy the things that he worked for and basically stop working.
So be careful. That's still up here. That's one of the ways, right? So he tried working, nah, still feel anxious, right? He tries wisdom, nah, still feel anxious. He tries pleasure, it's still there, right? So none of these worked for him. He still felt anxious, can't be happy, can't relax, right? Incapable of relaxing fully, trying to flee into all of these states, not working. So look at verse 24, read. Tell me what you read there, and if you see a difference between that verse and the rest of what we just been saying. Look right before. He just finished saying, this too is Hevel, breath, Hevel. Everything is Hevel. And then all of a sudden he says, there's nothing better for man than to eat and drink and sate himself with good things through his toil, etc. So what is he saying here? Can anyone see the contradiction? Where is the contradiction? And Zooms, you can raise your virtual hand anytime. Are you seeing a contradiction between him saying, everything is Hevel, and then him turning around and saying, there is nothing better than? Are you following? What am I saying? Where's the contradiction? Can someone spell it out for the rest of us?
Well, I think it kind of seems like he doesn't know what the answer is, but then immediately after he says this is the answer.
Yes, right? He just said nothing works, and I said this works. But this is basically what's happening. He just said nothing works, and then all of a sudden, verse 24, there's nothing better than what? And all of a sudden, he's very relaxed. All of a sudden, do you sense the shift? The emotional shift from anxiety, trying, and all of a sudden, there's nothing better than to eat and drink and through what we get through our toils. All of a sudden, you have a shift in the. Remember, I told you Ecclesiastes is going to shift like this, right? He's going to be anxious, Egyptian, right? Now, all of a sudden, he's like, you can imagine him sitting under on the garden, right, with his wine. There's nothing better than. So what's happening? What is all of a sudden he's happy? What caused the shift? What follows will give you an indication. If you continue reading, you'll get a sense of how he shifted. So Bedel and then who are you again? Lanera, yes, Bedel.
Is he creating a segment or accepting it?
Is he what? Well, look at the text. Tell me from the text. You don't have the text. You're guessing. Text. I need the answers from the text. Go ahead.
I'm going to say, if you look after, where he goes from, he's very pessimistic, and then he realizes that when he changes his lifestyle, he can be happy. But after that, which is interesting to me, he goes back into that very pessimistic tone in the next chapter.
Yes.
So it feels like that happiness that he endured from just satiating himself with what he worked for was only temporary.
Yes, absolutely. He falls back into heaven a few verses later. But we have a moment here. All of a sudden he relaxes. And I want to know, what did he just glimpse that made him relax? He comes out of it afterwards. He doesn't stay long, right? But something makes him relax. What is it? Yes.
I guess a freedom or a liberation in the sense of accepting the fact that, there is no meaning and he's kind of just living in the pleasures of just the present.
You're on the right track, but look at the text. Look at verse 24. The key is in verse 24. Don't look at me. Don't imagine the answer. Look at, yes, go ahead.
I'm just going to say God's hand.
Very good, right? There's a shift. Now, let's look at that, right? Because we want to give, there's two ways to interpret. There's a religious way and there's a secular way. I'm going to do both. First thing he realizes, here is the shift. God's hand. So now let's see what the psychological shift is. Because there is a psychological shift, which we can all make, whether we believe in God or not, right? All of a sudden, so to see the shift, we have to go back. So let's go back quickly to the beginning of chapter 2. I'm going to read it, and you're going to tell me what is the word you hear over and over again. Okay, are you ready? I'm going to read. You can just listen. Tell me what is the word you hear over and over again. Okay, he's at the beginning, verse 4. I made me great works. I built, I planted, I made, I bought, I gathered, I got myself, I grew, I did, I didn't. What's good? What's the atmosphere?
I didn't.
I did. There's a frenetic, right? There's a frenzy. There's a kind of anxious grasping. I did, I bought, I built. You can sense this guy doesn't have a minute of relaxation. He's just doing, right? And by the way, just to go back to Cain, right? The verb that comes up over and over again I acquired is kana. So Cain has found his way into this text. This text was written with that story in mind, right? So we are seeing again the two brothers. That's just the indication. So first thing we see, he was in a state of frenetic grasping, and now all of a sudden, the psychological shift is moving from grasping to receiving. Write this down, this is the key. He moves from an attitude of, I am in control, I have to make this happen, I have to cause, I have to find a way to find stability. He moves from this attitude of grasping control to an attitude of receptivity. The hand of God in the text, Ecclesiastes is not religious. So when you read hand of God, don't think he's going over there to the synagogue praying. He's not, right? Hand of God simply means I am in an attitude of receptivity towards life rather than an attitude of grasping. And so what is the lesson for us? What can we learn about obtaining happiness? Tell me what you're getting from this contrast, from these two psychological states, the one which is frenetically trying to grasp, strive, make something happen, and the one where he's just sitting back and like, there's nothing better, right? So what is the psychological shift we have to make in order to be happy? Adu.
Rather than trying to like go out and find happiness, just let it come to you.
Absolutely, right? This is so counterintuitive, right, for our culture. We are a culture of pains. We make it happen. We're going to make even love happen, right? We have websites, everything is set up, your profile, right? The algorithm is setting you up with somebody, that is going to work out, right? We have everything set up. We are in full control. You want a drink of water? You go on the internet, you order it online, right? You want to go somewhere? You go on the internet, you get an Uber. Everything is at our fingertips. We are a society of go-getters. This is the American way. Pulling yourself by your own bootstraps, making it happen. And we are constantly chasing after the wind, would say. We're never going to get to that place of, it's so, right? How does he put it? There's nothing better. So he's saying here, what the text is telling us, right, between the lines, is that happiness is not something you can make happen. You can't run after pleasure or become a sage or become a hardworking, right, American dreamer, right? Happiness is not something you can control, make happen, strive to achieve. If you are trying to do that, so you can certainly find a lot of things here, but not happiness, right? You can find here money, financial security, yes. Here you can find wisdom, you have good advice, you're calm. Here you can find pleasure, but happiness is not here. Because happiness, it necessitates a shift in your psychology, a realization that I am not in control, and a realization that the universe is in a way in control, right? That you is the attitude towards life of receiving rather than grasping. By the way, this is such a profound lesson. It works in all levels. I'll give you an example. It works when you want to get a job. You're soon going to graduate. You will face this terrible ordeal. You want to get a job, you prepare. By the way, you come to your interview. I will give you some advice how to succeed in your interview. If you come in the interview, most of you, thinking, I have to have this job, how are you going to do the interview? How's it going to go? You're going to be like this. You're going to be sweating. You're going to be stuttering. You're going to be saying all the wrong things because you're in an attitude of grasping. This has to happen. If I don't get this, yeah. However, if you go in the interview thinking, hopefully I'll get it. It's not up to me. I'm going to do my part, and then I'm just going to be in a state of grace, right? How are you going to do the interview? You're going to be relaxed. You're going to be, and you'll get the job. You see that? You see what I'm saying? This is so profound. If you stop thinking you can control, and if you realize I can only do this much, and then I have to allow for grace to kick in. If you're working in partnership with the universe, rather than thinking that it all lies on your own shoulders, this is the path, right? So let me say it again so you can write it down, right? If you're coming with an attitude of control, right, rather than an attitude of, I'll do my part and then I will allow grace to kick in, right? This is living in a state of grace. Doesn't mean you're on the couch watching TV all day. You're doing your part, but you're doing it in a state of grace. I'm doing my part, and then I will just let God, the universe, life, right, offer me the job or not. You are surrendering to the designs of life, or God, whatever you want it, however you want to put it, right? You will actually succeed much more powerfully when you're in that state. You will achieve much more when you're. It's the same. If you want another example, love. You're dating someone. Now, suppose you're dating someone and you're like, I have to have this guy. I have to have them. If I don't have them, I will die. How are you going to be in the relationship?
Anxious.
It's going to be awful. You will be possessive, jealous. You will be always checking their phone. You will be, always yelling at them, telling them, why didn't you do this? Where were you last night? Why haven't you called? Because you're in an attitude of grasping. And you're not understanding that this person is a gift. And you're ruining the experience right now with your grasping, right? All love is a grace, is a gift. All we have to do is let it come in. But you know what we do? It appears on the horizon. And here we are, right? And we're like going to grab this person. And as we grab them, we destroy everything. We are the ones. If we are single, look at yourself. Are you grasping or are you receiving? Right? Very often you will see how much we ruin our relationships with attitudes of grasping rather than just allowing the person to come towards us at their own pace, with their own process, right? Allowing them to be and to grow and to evolve in their own way without trying to control everything. This is the difference between being happy and not happy, is being controlling or not controlling. The moment you surrender and you just receive life is the moment you will be like Solomon, sitting there and being like, there is nothing better. Now you can enjoy yourself. You're relaxed. Because you're not trying to make it happen. You are now in a state of receptivity, and you're understanding that all that comes from life is a gift. And next time we're going to talk about even the dark times can be a gift. And so in a way, you don't have to fear anything because everything is a gift, right? So that's the first thing we are seeing in this text, is the need to make this deep psychological shift from grasping to receiving. Because only when we are in a state of receiving will things actually flow. Will the good things of life start to enter your life without you ruining everything and destroying everything with your grasping attitude, right? So that's the first thing. Now, watch what happens next. Here we are relaxing under the tree, right, with a little glass of wine. And we were all going to be like, yes, that's the key. And now watch what he does. This is terrible. Watch at the end. Blah, 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 God's hand. And then he says he has given. And then he concludes, last verse. What does he say? Complete anticlimax. What's he saying in the last line? Tell me.
This too is mere breath and hurting no one.
Exactly. Who was it who said that? Who said that he goes back? There you go. Boom! We're back to the anxiety rises up again, right? Even this. I can't relax even knowing, right? So even the state of receptivity has become now disturbed by the rising sense of haven, right? So I want to stop and look at this. Why does he, and he finishes like this. Instead of finishing nicely with the hand of God and all of us religious folk could relax, be like, yeah, God will provide, it's all good. No, it's not, he said. I'm still anxious, right? Even God, I'm still anxious. So let's look at that a little bit. Tell me, there's a connection, right? So he seems to be hanging on to this haven. It's not going away, right? God is not going to exorcise you from the haven. You cannot go to your priest and be like, take this away from me, this anxiety. Nobody can take this away. It's still there, always going to be there. Even you have a moment of lucidity, like you have an epiphany, like, oh, everything is gift. It's still there, right? So there is something here that he is saying we need to keep this before our eyes. This is what he's saying. He's saying no matter what, even if you become a bit religious or a bit mystical or a philosopher, hanging on to the gift, right? Receptivity, even if you shift, it is still, the haven remains. And we need to keep our eyes on the haven. So here's my question to you. Why do you think it's important to never, never repress the haven or forget about the haven? what state of mind does the Hevel keep us in? What does it allow? If you don't have the Hevel, this anxiety, what's the problem? What's going to happen to you that's not so good?
You like, I guess, lose a sense of humanity.
Explain. This is good.
I mean, if we're gonna say like the handle is, maybe let's use another word as like life in general, right? And he's anxious about the fact that he's grasping for his life. He doesn't want to perish or. I know at the end of the book he says return to dust. But at the end of the day, like you can't really sit there and worry about something like that. And the constant worrying, I guess, in his eyes, is what keeps you sane. Like it's what gives you that sense of humanity. It's what allows you to have compassion for others.
Very good. Typically Jewish text. If you're Jewish, you know always anxious, right? No matter what. He's basically saying, never, never turn that voice off. This anxiety, deep kind of sense of Hevel or anxiety you're feeling, yes, you can have some respite, eating, drinking. This is all ways to get some respite. It's okay, right, to have some respite. But he's saying, never shut it down. Because the day you shut it down, you stop being human. You become a robot. Pleasantville. What is these movies where you have a bunch of non-humans walking around always happy? Those movies, those alternative utopic realities where everyone is in order and everyone is happy. You know these movies they make sometimes about the future. We're very close now to these movies, right? Is what I'm saying, right? This is this kind of anxiety, what keeps us human, what keeps us on our toes, what keeps us aware of grace. If you didn't have the anxiety, right? And if you were like, I got this, I'm in control, would you ever have a sense that life is a gift? No, your life is your achievement. Most of us Americans, this is what we're thinking. I did this, right? They have forgotten, right? They have forgotten this thing. Most of us have forgotten this. When you're out of touch with this, or when you're trying to constantly repress it, you lose the ability to relax into grace. This is how Hevel connected to grace. When I say grace, I mean this idea that life is a gift, right? If you don't have Hevel, no grace. You're in control. You don't need nobody to help you or give you anything. You don't need the universe to kick in and figure this out for you. You're in full control. So the Hevel, this kind of dull feeling that I'm not in control, I can't do this, right? Actually, what keeps you open, what keeps you in a state of grace. You would never even have the opening onto grace if you didn't have this disturbance, right? And Heidegger says something, he's gone, he says something very similar, right? Being unto death, the way that we have a sense of death is what really makes us philosophers. Well, he has a different interpretation, but he does say that it's important to keep alive this anxiety. So if all of you are feeling kind of anxious, good. This is good. The anxiety is what opens you up to the possibility that you're not in control, and this is good because this opens you up to the possibility of receiving, right? This is the experience that I've had over and over again. And I guess I could tell you so many times where I was like, okay, I did my best, but it's not enough, right? I did my best to do this exam, but I know it's not enough. And yet you somehow keep going, right? I did my best in this relationship. I just know it doesn't cut it. And all of a sudden the relationship starts to work, right? I have seen this over and over in life, where you do your best knowing this is not enough, but you still offer it. And somehow, in time, things are put back together, right? You will see this when you look for a job. There will be jobs where you are underqualified and you're like, I don't know if I can ever get this, but I'm going to still apply. And you get it. And you're like, what? How did this happen? There's going to be relationships where you feel it's the end. It's over. And you're still trying to make it work, but it's over. And then somehow something happens and it comes back, right? The love comes back, the passion comes back, and you're like, I don't even know how this happened. This was not my doing, right? I did this, but I always knew it was not enough. In this life, nothing that you will ever do is enough. You will find out very soon as you're out into the big bad world, right? In class, we're nice to you. We give you nice open book exams, I make it so easy. But in the world, you will very quickly be confronted to your limitations. This limitation will make you anxious. This anxiety, you should rejoice in it because it is what opens you up to the possibility that grace can happen. You can't get this job you don't deserve. You can't get this person you don't deserve. You can't get this illumination or epiphany you didn't even see coming, right? Life is full of grace. That's what this book is telling us, right? And the anxiety is what is keeping us aware of it, right? Or open to it, rather, because when you're anxious, you're not aware of grace, you're aware of despair, right? But it keeps you open to it. So very profound text, right? You can see how this text has so much wisdom, even though it's not typical Orthodox text, right? It's still a text which is telling you, right? It's still a text about grace, in a way, even though it's on this path over here, the transgressor, right? Transgressors actually are the only ones who know about grace. The good Christian or good Jew doesn't, because they're doing it. Let me tell you a funny story. I'll end with that. In the Talmud, learn this word. This is a collection of the commentaries of the rabbis. They tell this story. They say, when all is over, right? Or it wasn't like that. It was a vision that a rabbi had. He looked into the heavens and saw God on his throne. And then he noticed the angels sitting here, a little below, right? And then he noticed that there were some human beings there too. A handful, right? But these human beings were not sitting way below. They were sitting above the angels, higher status than the angels, perfect beings. So this rabbi is like, what? We are not supposed to be higher than the angels. Why are we higher than the angels? Why do you think the human beings were seated closer to God than the angels? Story, parable. What makes us better than the angels? I mean, the angels are perfect. They have wings, they fly around, they're always praising God, they never sinned. What makes us better? Yes?
We saw the world, but we chose God.
What?
We saw the world, but we chose God.
Close.
And angels took the part of the
Angels saw the world too.
Greatest loving God. Angels aren't in the world.
That's true. They're more up there singing.
Yeah, they're like right next to them all the time.
That's true. We saw, but it has to do. You're in the right track. We are in the world. What did we taste that the angels will never taste? Precisely because we're human. Yes.
Maybe it's because we're aware of our imperfections.
Yes. We tasted sin, and yet we made it. Right? Angels, they're perfect. They don't know grace. We do. Right? Let me show you what grace looks like. You messed up. You did this all wrong, and yet it worked out. Have you ever been in a relationship? You messed up. You did everything wrong, and it worked out. That's grace. This is life. Life is full of these things where you messed up big, and yet you make it through. The angels never taste that. That's why they're below us. We're higher, right, according to that story. That's what I want to end on. Okay, great. So next time, I'm going to focus on chapter 3. So when you do the reading assignments, I know I said read the whole thing, so read the whole thing, the last part of Ecclesiastes, but focus your reading assignment on chapter 3, because I'm really going to be talking about that next time. I'll be talking about time. So I will see you, I don't know, what day are we today? Help me, Thursday? Yeah. See you on Tuesday. Enjoy the rest of the book. Should be good. I'm going to stop the recording.